So, welcome to Two Qs with Lisa Ward. I am your host, and today our guest is Miss Jennifer. So, Jennifer, go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you, Lisa, and thank you for having me, first of all. So, as mentioned, my name is Jennifer Gabel. I own a crane rental company in northern New Jersey. I also founded a wellness company for the construction industry called Constructor Health, where I go and I give mostly talks and workshops in related to both physical and mental health in the construction space. And other than that, I'm very happily married, obsessed with my husband. I have two adorable children and a very unruly dog.
I love it. How old are the kids?
They are 8 and 10.
Oh, fantastic. Oh, so you've got all the activities going.
Yeah, but it's a fun age. Honestly, once they were at the point where you didn't have to like watch them going down the stairs, and it was more fun than work, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're not worried about them staying alive.
Right, exactly. Like they know not to drink the like poison.
Yes. Yes. That's awesome. Yay. Well, I ask everyone two questions, and your first one is, what do you want that you don't already have?
Um, Peace, actually. And
Mm.
what I mean by that isn't peace in the sense of probably what, Mother Teresa would say, world peace. Sadly, selfishly, I mean peace for myself. And that could look like more simplicity. It could look like a sense of deep contentment. But I know that around me can feel very chaotic at times. And while those things are impermanent, they definitely can be challenging to the feeling of peace that I would love to have.
Hence the 8 and the 10-year-old and the crazy dog. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So if that's what we're striving for, second question is always what's holding you back from achieving it? So are we trying to work on it, or do we have any tactics with the second business that you can then implement within in personal life as well?
Yeah. Well, what's holding me back? Isn't it what holds us back from anything ourselves? I think so. For me, I've chosen a difficult path. Like I am somebody who has very, I'm the embodiment of a double-edged sword. I have a very peaceful nature where I'm very sensitive. I'm really in tune to people's emotions. And I really, really care deeply for all of humanity. And then on the other side of me is this like fearless warrior who just cannot help herself when she sees an injustice and feels like I have to do whatever I can to right that injustice. And it's something I've sort of grappled with since I was really young, where, I mean, I remember one time I was bullied really badly in middle school. And what kicked it off was there was this one girl in this very scary group of girls who was picking on somebody for her size. She was picking on her because she felt that she was overweight and had something to say about it. But of course, then I had to have something to say about it. And so instead of focusing her efforts on this poor, quiet girl who didn't want to speak for herself, then she turned on me. All her friends turned on me. And that was not a peaceful existence. That was really hard. Luckily, it was before the age of social media,
Yeah.
but it was a tough thing that I had to deal with for the whole rest of the school year. And as I've gotten older, I haven't changed much. I'm really passionate about women's issues. I'm passionate about health and wellness, and I work in a male dominated industry that's known
Mhm.
for its toxic masculinity. It's known for its alarming statistics regarding depression and addiction and suicide. And I just have something to say about it. And not everybody likes me having something to say about it. And I think when people are challenged in their comfort, because sometimes that world serves a certain demographic, and that's a very comfortable world. And I think when I'm advocating for something that threatens that comfort or potentially forces them to face maybe an insecurity or be a mirror they don't want to be reflected, it's warfare. And I think when I talk about peace, I'm very specific about knowing that this is an internal piece, because my external world is always going to be chaotic until and unless I, move one day to the English countryside with my family and have horses and cats and dogs, and my whole day is a living meditation. And so for now, and one of the things I teach about is meditation. I rely on things like meditation. I have a therapist that I've been with longer than I've been with my husband. And those are things that help me work towards inner peace. But it is something that I definitely still struggle with, especially when that external world is very chaotic.
Mm-hmm. And you can't control that or change that. It'll probably always be that way.
Right. And I think that's a big part of the inner peace. I don't know if you're familiar with Stoic philosophy, but
No.
oh my God, I'm such a fan. So I've been called Stoic for years and years and years. And I think it wasn't necessarily always meant as a compliment. I think sometimes I can come across as unemotional, even though, I've said I am very sensitive, but I'm also very guarded because, growing up in the 90s, it was still a weakness to show emotion. And especially being such a daddy's girl, and my dad was a workaholic, and he was very much like of the tough guy mentality and thick skin and all of that. I definitely quelled a lot of emotions and really learned to have a killer poker face. And so
Mm-hmm.
because of that, when I'm upset about something publicly, it's not always obvious. And that could be even in extreme cases. I think people were sort of taken off guard that I didn't cry at my dad's funeral. And it's because those things, those emotions are so private for me. And it's not because I don't feel the sadness or the grief, but because I feel them in my own time, in my own way. But it bothered me that people called me stoic. And then someone said, well, stoic can be actually a good thing, and introduced me to the stoic philosophers. And when I read into them, I think Ryan Holiday is a well-known author regarding this topic. It's about focusing on what you can control and sort of surrendering or accepting on the things that I can't control. And when I combine that with, I don't know if you're familiar with the Four Agreements
Mm-hmm.
book, the Four Agreements,
Mm-hmm.
those two things combined, I always go back to and remind myself of I can focus on this and what I do, and I can't focus necessarily on the outputs, the inputs, I should say, just my reaction to them.
Yeah. Do you think people, as they get to know you, they're trying to gauge, how you respond to things that you were misunderstood because you didn't respond the way people anticipated you to respond,
I've,
especially as a woman?
yeah, with the people that I'm closest with, they get all of me. Like once I'm in with people, I am shockingly unguarded. I don't, I am not, for example, my team at work, even though they're almost all men, I mean, we have such a rapport. I don't hide most things. I'm sure I would be considered like going against all CEO books, but I am who I am. And I think that's really important for my authenticity as a leader, to just be who I am. Because
Mhm.
if I kind of pretend to be somebody else, or a lot of people are always lending me books. And first of all, the books about these like CEOs, I'm always like, okay, but were they also raising children? Or were they from a time where their spouse was taking on most of the work? And if that's the case, like none of this applies. And
Mhm.
so I just feel like I can find people inspiring, but to try to be those people or embody their personality traits would always feel a little forced. So I feel comfortable when someone's in my inner circle being exactly who I am. But until that point of, I guess, trust, um, I am a little bit more guarded. And I think those people are always just going to see more whatever they perceive. And
Mhm.
that is maybe based on what they want to perceive.
Right. Whether it's accurate or not.
Right.
So
Yeah.
interesting. Okay. Um, so going back to meditation and making sure that you do find peace, even if it is a chaotic day, are there, activities that you do, or is there, it's set on your calendar at this time? I know that I need to turn the phone off, close email, and not think about this and focus on what I can. Like, do you do anything like that in your regular day?
Yeah. So, I mean, first thing in the morning is when I do my first meditation. I do a type of meditation called transcendental meditation. So it's typically a morning and then an afternoon, 20 minutes each.
Okay.
It's a little bit more involved in that, but it's sort of like Fight Club, and I don't think you're allowed to talk about it. So you have
Okay.
to go to like a special, sessions to learn how to do it. And it's all very like cloak and dagger, but I do really love it. And that definitely helps anchor my day. I will say one thing I learned, I go as when I can, I go on this annual retreat. It's a week long, and it's only women who are active in the retreat. And it's a very nurturing space. And I think for me, being in a mostly male dominated field, it's a nice contrast to that, to be around women. And that's just a different energy, no matter
Mhm.
who the women are, like they just bring a different energy. And in this particular retreat, the first 2 days are done in complete silence. And what silence is not only my handing my phone over, and I don't bring any other tech other than my phone. So not only am I handing my phone over, and in addition to no speaking to one another, there's no music, there's no reading, there's no writing, there's no eye contact with people. And the idea is to strip away every artifice, because even in eye contact, there's this human like instinct to smile or do something to be like, hey, you like me, I'm
Mhm.
likable and I'm a certain way. And it's all fake. So it kind of takes and strips down every layer that we have. And I find it to be one of the most powerful things, because the only things to do are I can move my body, hiking or yoga or whatever. I can meditate, I can nap, I can eat.
Okay,
Um,
good.
that's allowed. But it's really interesting because otherwise, the only music is the sound of nature. The only company is really the nature that surrounds this beautiful retreat center. And what I do when I'm having a particularly challenging time where it feels like my world is literally a dumpster fire, I try to get myself out and watch nature and just sit in nature. Because what I realize is if it's a man made problem, it's not real. I'm perceiving it as real. If that squirrel and those chipmunks are just going about their day, there's not a real problem here. It's that I'm perceiving this as a problem. I'm letting it become, the end of the world. And so they're a reminder of that power that I have to reframe anything and say, is this real or is this not real?
Or is it important? Do I dedicate more energy to it? Oh, that's good. I don't know how I would do 2 days without like even just smiling at somebody. Oh my.
It's awkward at first. The first year that I did it, I'm going to tell like a tiny little story. So I was doing a hike up and down this mountain. And first of all, there was this it's in Italy, this old
Okay.
Italian woman, and she must have been like around 80, um, hiking up the mountain. And when she came up the mountain, as I was going down, because I start, the center's at the top of the mountain. So I started with going down, and she was coming up. And first of all, I was so impressed by her fitness level. She was just like booking it. And meanwhile, I'm walking so slowly thinking I'm going to fall down this mountain, but I digress. And as I'm walking by her, I'm like, I know that I'm not allowed to smile at her, but she walks by me and I'm not allowed to talk to her. And
Mhm.
she's not part of the retreat. When we're all amongst the people who are
Oh, she's no
participating,
clue.
she has
Okay.
no clue. She's just a person who lives in the village at the base of this mountain. But here I am, this person in a retreat going off of the center to do a hike and to, fill the time. And she walks by me and she says, ciao, and smiles. And I could see it like in my periphery that she's smiling. And so when I walk down, like I'm kind of looking down and I don't say anything because I'm not supposed to. And I'm so type A and I'm so obedient sometimes, like with certain things. And I'm like, I have to do this the right way. And so I like felt so horrible. And when she pretty much lapped me because that's how fast she was going. I was still going down and she was coming back down. And when she walked by again, she again says ciao. And I like very softly just whispered ciao because I felt so bad not like acknowledging her humanity.
Yeah.
I'm sure she thought I was just a rude American.
Yes. But if those retreats happened often enough, maybe everybody kind of knows what's going on, hopefully.
Yeah, it is my hope that that is the case. I mean, the nice thing about the lovely staff there is they all know what's going on. So they know
Yeah.
not to speak to you and everything like that. But, you know, as much as it would be nice to have that experience forever, that's not real life.
Right.
But what I can do is always draw back to that experience. And when things are really particularly challenging, I'll take a mini, you know, silence. If my husband takes the kids to my in-laws for an overnight and I'm unable to go, I try to at least have part of my day be in silence because it's just me and the dog. And, you know, not be on technology, not watch TV, not read, which is the hardest part because I love to
Mhm.
read, and just be with my thoughts. And I think silence is scary because there's nothing else. It's just forcing us to be with our thoughts.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Early in the pandemic, that's actually how I like unplugged from all of the chaos that was, 2020, 2021.
Yeah.
I learned how to garden, bought a house in 2020, and it was like the best therapy ever. Just me and the birds and
It's
the dirt.
true. It's actually one of the things I teach when I talk about meditation in the construction industry. I'm very honest and I say, this is the last thing I want to say and talk about to you because I think people have this idea that meditation looks a certain way and that there's, incense burning and wind chimes and, whatever. And I
But
explained to
yeah.
them actually like a lot of things can be a meditation, a form of
Mhm.
meditation. And you may feel that way when you're gardening and you're just deep
Yeah.
in flow with gardening and you're surrounded by nature. And I think that's so healing. And the energy we get from that is so healing.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And then the flowers look fantastic now, 4 years later.
Yeah,
And now
exactly.
reaping the benefits of all of the work. So yes, no,
With
it's
symbolism in there, I'm sure.
lots of symbolism. No, that's fantastic. Is there anything else that besides the twice a day that you do on a regular basis to find peace? Even when it's not in the office, is there something that your family does besides everybody get away from me and don't talk to me?
Well, yeah, so I have a couple of other things. One is I do a specific workout that works really well for it's almost like a moving meditation in a sense because I don't know if you've ever heard of Tracy Anderson, but I
Yeah.
do her workout. And
Yeah.
my favorite thing, and it's something that when people haven't experienced it or haven't, it's not everything's for everybody, but one thing
Right.
she does that's so unique is she doesn't speak when she's teaching. And
Mhm.
so my brain has to track her movements and I have to be ready for when it changes. And she's not directing and saying, make sure this is engaged and pulled in and this and that. She offers, breakdowns, but she always asks that the first class we go in and it's just raw. And it creates this pure presence because I have to stay in it. And it's not to say I don't have thoughts come up and of course, but I have thoughts come up in my actual meditation as well.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I need to do blah 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 today. Don't
Right,
forget.
right. Having thoughts isn't bad, but I feel like I'm moving through something and I do that at least 6 days a week. And I mean,
Wow.
it's just, I love it. It's delicious. And the other thing too is I love to dance.
Yeah,
And
I kind of sensed that from you.
yeah, loved so dearly to dance. And so I try to find ways to build it in. So if I'm like cleaning the kitchen and I put on music, it's almost like I cannot help myself and I'll just start dancing and it brings me so much joy. Or I'll have, dance parties with the kids, or when I go out, I will, if there's a good song on, I will start dancing by myself and
Oh,
people laugh at
absolutely.
it. But like, I just want to move. I love music and I love to move to music. And so
Did you
that's,
grow up dancing?
yeah, but I wasn't like particularly diligent about it. I mean, I did dance and I was a cheerleader, but my favorite kind of dancing is the one that comes from somewhere deep within the soul of like, this is how it feels good right now to move. And yeah, I love it.
I could sense that from you. I grew up dancing too, and
Kindred spirits.
I can't sit still. If there's music, something is either tapping or I'm choreographing in my head. Always moving somehow.
I just came back from a work trip in Nashville last night and I was like, I love this city because you can go out anywhere and get pretty much any kind of music my heart would desire. So I really enjoy country music, which is a little unusual living in the New York City area, but I
Hmm.
enjoy country music. I enjoy like rock. I enjoy 90s, 2000s music. And then I also love like dance music. And so, we were at one of my favorite places there was Morgan Wallen's bar because it was like a live band on one floor. And then a couple floors up is a DJ playing like club music. And then above that is another live band. And it's just like everything I could ever want. My dancing soul was so happy.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I haven't been. It's on the list.
Oh my God. And what I loved is that people of all ages were everywhere we went. So there was people that literally could have been like my granny. And then also people where I'm like, are you old enough to get into this bar, dear?
Well,
Where
you know,
I'm the granny.
yeah,
So I thought that was so great.
that's fantastic. Yeah, heck yeah. Well, why not? Everybody can enjoy a little live music, especially if you can dance to it. I'm game. Let's
Yeah.
go.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, so if you like advice, now all of the things that you know now, what piece of advice would you given yourself when you started the first company?
Oh, that's such a good question. Honestly, I think it's just a little bit of feeling like I would tell myself it's okay to feel like I have imposter syndrome. I was really young when I took over the company. I didn't think I was young at the time, but I was freshly 30. I had a very young baby at home who I was still nursing, and I showed up with my breast pump in my high heels, and I was like, all right, guys, like, let's do this. Um, and I think that there was a lot of pressure to not be myself. And because of that, not knowing if myself was the right person for this role, because I didn't look or act like a stereotypical owner of a crane rental company,
Mhm.
I felt this imposter syndrome. And I think I wish I could have told myself it's completely normal and okay to feel this way, because all of our feelings are valid, right? And there are no good or bad feelings. It's just, it's normal.
Yeah.
Um, but to just be yourself, because, and I know that's so trite to say, but, and it's so hard to like actually take that advice when you're young and you feel like you have to put on certain pieces of an identity. But
Mhm.
the second I let go of all of that was the most fun I've had running a business. And I wish I could have told myself to do that sooner.
Yeah. Yeah. And do we actually know ourselves at that point too? Am I still navigating, how do I fit into this industry? So that's
Yeah. On
yeah.
top of having a shifting identity, I mean, a couple of years before I was going to happy hours with friends and I had such a
Mhm.
tight group of girlfriends. I was living in the city at New York City. I'm so obnoxious of a New Yorker to be like the city, like there's one, but New York City. And I mean, I had such a robust social life and I was having the time of my life. And then when I became a mom, I was one of the first of my friends. My husband and I got married early for New York. I was 27, had my daughter at 29. And that in my circle is really, really young. I mean, some of my friends, I'm 40 now, and a lot of my friends are just like kind of finishing up having their kids. Um, I like it now. I like where my kids are at now. And I like that I feel like young and energetic. And I'm kind of like, it's great now, but it was very lonely back then because I was still holding on to that person that I thought I was. And I didn't want motherhood to change me, but inevitably it did.
Oh, yeah.
And I fought
In
against
good ways,
that.
but it's
Yeah.
different.
But it's kind of the same as the advice that I was just talking about, because I wish I could have told myself, like, it's normal to feel imposter syndrome and just be yourself, because the sooner you let go of all the things you think you're supposed to do and say, the more fun this is.
Mhm. Mhm. And I think it doesn't matter what industry you are, every female, especially in that transition to motherhood. I don't have the kids yet. I'm honorary aunt to many. Uh,
Oh,
but
aunts
I
have a lot of
see
fun.
that transition often, especially working with younger households. I get so giddy for them. It's like, y'all have no clue how your world is going to be turned upside down. It'll all be fantastic. Like it'll be the best thing that's ever happened. But I think several females, it is like, okay, who am I now? And
Yeah.
how do I celebrate that? Um, and then
And it's
change jobs at the same time. Like that's a lot of change all at once.
it was a lot of change. I definitely broke the rule of like after major life events, wait to do anything crazy. But I think a lot about when I was 20, this one time when I was 21, it was actually my 21st birthday. I was at a bar in College Park, Maryland, where I went to college, and my friends had taken me out. I think it was like a Tuesday night, which in college world is a night to go out.
Yeah.
And while we were at this bar, a famous like TV network was there interviewing people for their reality show. And my friends thought it would be hilarious if I would get interviewed. And it was some sort of dating show. And they were like, can you describe yourself in 3 words? And I said, I'm the type of girl who can't be described in 3 words. And it was such a cheeky thing. It worked really well because they tried really hard to get me on their show. And
Yeah.
I actually, in the light of day and with less imbibement, I was like, no, I'm not doing this. This isn't going to be my path. And no shade to anybody who goes down that path, but I just like intuitively knew that wasn't right for me. Um, but that hasn't changed. And I think I have sometimes forgotten that along the way. I think the less labels I adopt, the more free I feel to just be exactly who I am. And that could be somebody who loves like trashy romance novels, but also calculus, like,
Yes.
so like, it's all okay. I don't have to fit into this one box. And I love the freedom that it brings.
That's awesome. Yeah. Oh, I'm not the norm either. I'm the theater kid that loves math.
Yeah.
You know, or a dancer that counts past 8 and loves spreadsheets. Like
Right.
not
Right.
the norm of the box.
Right. And someone once said to me, how is it that you like are such a voracious reader, but you love math? These are different parts of your brain. And I'm like, okay, but is it, or do people tell us that if you're this, then you can't be that? And
Mhm.
we then make that our reality.
Yeah.
Um, Kind of like just not even thinking about it, saying like, this is it. This is who I am.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Or
History
for
bores me to tears, and I'm not going to pretend otherwise.
awesome. Um, any projects or anything philanthropic that you're a part of or have coming up with the rest of this year?
Yeah, so I'm really actively involved in a trade association in our industry called the Specialized Carriers and Rigging Association. So I sit on a committee there, the Tower Crane Committee. And then they have a 501(c)(3) arm called the Specialized Carriers and Rigging Foundation. And recently actually about a year ago now, I became president.
Oh,
So
congrats.
thank you. So I have another just under a year of my term. And we do a lot in terms of workforce development and research in the industry and provide educational assistance to individuals and companies. And so I really enjoy that work. I'm also involved in my church. So we have different ministry groups who tackle different areas that the congregation has identified as important to them. Things like the climate, racial justice, food insecurity. And so I am the volunteer coordinator who is sort of the go-between between clergy. I don't know if you can hear my dog's squeaking toy in the background, but the clergy
No.
and the ministry group leaders.
Okay, so you heard the cats. That's a hard job.
Well, people are doing this work because they feel called to and not because they have to. And so
Okay.
I think that adds a layer of ease. Whereas I think when you're a coordinator in a career setting in work, it probably feels more like herding cats.
That's cool. How did you get started in that at church?
Attending and, volunteering for different things when I could. To be honest with you, I said this to our reverend, so I don't mind saying it out loud, but like I had no business saying yes to that position because my plate is so full. And actually, up until a week ago, I was also the secretary at the parents association at my kid's school. And I was
Oh,
like, I don't understand. Like I have two jobs, like two companies. I have young children who have, cheerleading, ice hockey, and a husband that I want to give my attention to, and a dog who desperately wants any attention he can get. Like, what am I doing saying yes to all of these things? But I think I'm really passionate about certain things, and I just feel this like calling to try to help. It's where Constructor Health came from, being that I was so passionate about health and wellness, but I exist in the construction industry, not the healthiest place. I was
mhm.
like, what if I just try to do something about this? And, ultimately everybody benefits, including me, if it's a healthier industry.
Yeah. Is that kind of why you got that started?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because there was a time when I felt like such a weirdo. Like I'd be going to these business dinners and, I eat very healthy. I have just non-negotiable healthy practices, whether I'm on business trips or not. I still am doing my meditation and drinking a ton of water. And I still do Tracy Anderson, like all of those things. I eat mostly plants, not a ton of meat or anything like that. And so that definitely makes me unique, especially because most of the dinners are at steakhouses.
Yep.
And yeah, and I was like, well, as the pandemic came in, it was happening even before that, because I think the epidemic of addiction was really becoming prevalent, where it wasn't just a specific type of person becoming addicted, but it was every person. It was the soccer mom, it was the cousin or the dad or whatever it was. And so everybody was starting to feel like they knew somebody. And I think that brought mental health up a little bit. And then in the pandemic, I think it really became front and center and
Mhm.
became less of a taboo topic. And even in the industry, I've noticed a huge shift in resources being made available, and emphasizing that there's a suicide hotline and providing resources to people that they were there, but they were just like, if you look for them, not many
Right.
companies were being as proactive as I think they are today. And I saw an opportunity to capitalize on that. And at first, I offered my services for free. I just really wanted to get the word out and say, if I could even make an impact on one person's life, it's worth donating my time. And I am trained. I'm a certified integrative nutrition coach. I have 500 hours of yoga teacher training, and in construction, we don't call it yoga, we call it stretch and flex, whatever you want to say, but it's yoga, guys. Like, let's
Yeah.
be real. Um, but I found a type of presentation that's less of a presentation and more of an interactive way of teaching to groups of people, whether they're at a managerial level or whether they're on job sites. And so I've gone to job sites, I've gone to boardrooms, I've done even virtual. And what happened was, because it's just me and I'm quite busy, but word of mouth became my salesperson, so to speak. And then more and more companies and individuals who either saw it or heard about my work invited me to join them. And I think at the last safety week, that was in May, I did, I think, 7 job sites in 1 week.
Wow.
And now I charge for my services because, a wise teacher told me people really value is conveyed when they're paying for
Yep.
something.
Absolutely.
And I had my proof of concept already. I got my testimonials in return, the referrals. There was a value for me there, but at this point now, I do charge for my services, and I'm happy to, and people are happy to pay it, and it's been a wonderful experience.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm just envisioning all of like the stereotypical construction guys doing yoga.
Yeah, I know, but it's funny because it's been one of the most rewarding parts of my career. And I think that not every job we have is necessarily going to be our purpose, but I think there's ways to infuse our purpose into every job we have. I
Mhm.
think about that as, constructor health is a very concrete example of that, where I feel like part of my purpose is giving a forum for at least improving health and wellness in the construction industry. And again, there have been very tangible pieces of feedback that I've gotten where I'm like, I impacted that person, and that's amazing. And I love that. And it feels like I'm fulfilling a sense of my purpose. But it's also anything. Like, I think about the end of the day when it's time to clean up the kitchen, and I'm like, oh God, like the last thing I want to do is clean this kitchen. But when I have the attitude of that, it's such a chore, it's such drudgery. But when I think about it of, how can I infuse this with purpose? It's, I think our purpose is really to serve. And it's like, how amazing is it that my family's going to wake up to a sparkling kitchen? I set the table for breakfast the next day so that the school run is more smooth. And when
Mhm.
I do those things and I take the time and I infuse care in it, I enjoy it more. And then the whole, the sequence of events that follows is better as well. And
Oh
so
yes.
serving others, but I'm also serving myself.
Yes. Yeah, no, I'm gonna have to remember that next time I have to do dishes.
Yeah. And if you put music on and dance to it, I mean,
And it
hey,
makes it even better.
having a
Yes.
great time.
Yeah, no, cleaning the house definitely requires a background of some sort. I may or may not put on a performance while also cleaning the house.
Love it.
But it's more fun that way. But I love that even within like the tasks that we don't want to do during the day, or calling that one last person, but it's the purpose behind that. I'm going to implement that. I really I
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. And it's like,
Good.
just bringing it back to the meditation. It's called a practice because it's not like, oh, I've done it once and now I know how to do it all the time. It's
Mhm.
a constant remembering, it's a constant going back to it. And not every day do I feel that way. Not every day am I successful at it. But when I do that, have that intention, bring that intention into it, it's so rewarding.
Mhm. That's wonderful. Awesome. See, even before we started today, we got on the call and I was like, I feel like I've had 3 cups of coffee. We're doing all the things. Just even talking with you today, I have calmed down a little bit. So the energy is, going through the screen. So that's fantastic.
I love that.
Okay, so last nugget. So we've got a young person who's wanting to start their business, or they're wanting to level up like you did. What piece of advice would you give them?
Just, this isn't my advice, this is technically Nike, but like, just do it, just start. Because if this person is anything like me, they will let perfection be the enemy of good. And I think sometimes there's not only even the imposter syndrome that I already discussed, but this idea of, oh, there's all these people doing this out there, and why does someone need me? But no one is you, right? Like, no one is as unique as you are. No one is exactly as you are. And a great example we learn in school is in nutrition coaching school was, yeah, other people might do something similar to what you do. Not everything has to be a brand new idea, but you know, you can also have more than one Italian restaurant, and one has the pizza and one has the actual like authentic Italian food. And then, so it's things like that where you differentiate yourself by being yourself. And
Mhm.
no one is ever going to replicate that. And if they try, it's going to come off inauthentic. And any success that person may have by copying you is never going to be sustainable for them, because they're always going to have to be someone that they're not. So I think it's really important for people to just start, even if they don't feel like it's perfect, or it's not as good as this person, or I don't have a professional web person or whatever. Teach yourself everything. I mean, I did that with my health and wellness website. I built it myself during COVID while homeschooling my kids because they weren't in school. And I just did it like little by little and then launched it. And then it was done. And it's still not perfect, but who cares? Like, I get the information that I want out there. It's sustainable for me. And because it's something that I built and it's a work in progress, I know every facet of it. I know every part of it, and I'm able to be more nimble and adapt more because I didn't wait for the time when I had someone who could do it for me, or, wait until it was perfect. So I think, again, if anybody's like me and a little like controlling and a little type A, and just start.
Yeah, I love it. Yes, absolutely. Just try. You never know. You might absolutely fall in love with it and be really
Yeah.
good at it.
And what I started Construct Your Health as, to where it is now, which is finding success like I never imagined, is totally different. But I adapted to what my customers wanted
Mhm.
while staying true to myself, because I built it, but I built it in response to like a specific customer, and then it just hit for them. And that's when it started exploding. So I think it's that kind of thing where, again, if you're adaptable and open to change, but you stay who you are, it works out really well.
Yeah, it's a fun ride. Might be a
Yeah.
little crazy once every so often, but
And
yeah.
that's why we need inner peace.
Yes, and it all comes full circle, and that's why we have to meditate and check in with ourselves every once in a while.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, any other things you want to plug, projects you have coming up, anything fun?
I mean, if anybody ever needs a crane in anywhere really in the country, but operated particularly in the Northeast region, my company is JK Crane. If anybody ever needs a physical health, mental health workshop, Constructor Health is my company for that. And other than that, people can find me on LinkedIn.
Awesome. Yay. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. Had an absolute blast. And
Thank
hope you
you.
guys, hope you tune in for the next episode, and I'll have a great day.